I am joined by Olympic champion Kyle Shewfelt. So lovely to see your face. We're, of course, are talking about gymnastics. Kyle, it is the first Canadian Championships since 2019. Break it all down for me.
So this is the first Canadian Gymnastics Championship since 2019 that's happening in person. It's been virtual for the past 3 years, essentially. And I know the athletes are super excited to get back on the competition floor with each other and also having judges there present. Everything's been virtual. So there's an energy and there's an excitement, a bit of buzz around these championships. People are back together again. And I know the athletes have been working really hard and are looking forward to that opportunity. There's just something different about being in a venue and being in a magical place like the Richmond Olympic Oval where the championships are happening, where there is a bit of that Olympic legacy. You can just, there's a bit of magic.
So, what do these Canadian Championships actually determine? I mean, I'm thinking about Commonwealth, I'm thinking about World Championships, I'm thinking about Paris 2024.
So it's a little weird having Tokyo 2020 actually happen in 2021 because it just feels like the treadmill is going at a faster pace. And so 2022 is actually when all the selection starts to happen for the Olympic Games and for Pan Am Games. It really, things are launching. And so this is kind of that first step. And for the Canadian team, this will be the selection for the Commonwealth Games and also for the senior and junior Pan Am championships. So there's going to be groups of athletes that are going to be selected for those competitions. And this is also a really important meet towards the World Championships. So it will contribute towards the selection for that. And then they'll have a big camp together to select that World's team, which will be happening in Liverpool in the fall. But that World Championships, again, is very important because it's the first step towards the Paris 2024 Olympic qualification. So really, the athletes took a bit of a break after Tokyo 2020, and now they're right back in it, and qualification starts again.
There's a ton of returning Olympians on the women's team, of course. I'm thinking of Ellie Black, Ava Stewart, Rose Wu, Shalyn Olsen. What's the potential there?
Yeah, you name four names there, and all of these athletes have been to the Olympic Games. And then you have Anna Paderariu and Brooklyn Moores, who are at UCLA right now, who are considering potentially making a comeback. But you've got four Olympians who are going to be competing on the floor. So there's a lot of depth on this team. And there's also a lot of athletes who have made World Championship or World Cup teams. So the Canadian women's gymnastics team is in very good shape. There's a lot of depth, really balanced. And then you have the quintessential leader. You've got Ellie Black. She's won so many Canadian championships. I think we've all lost count. She's been really on the scene for the past decade. She's going to be turning 27 and she is in her prime. She's figured out what routines work for her. Of course, the code of points changes after every Olympic Games. So there's some new rules that everybody's kind of working out. But I suspect that Ellie Black is going to run away with the title here. She's such a professional. She takes such good care of herself in her gymnastics, and she just continues to improve. And then you have Ava Stewart, who at the Olympic Games in Tokyo 2020 didn't quite have the performance that she was looking for. She had a few falls there, but I know that she's learned from that experience, and she's actually looking really good this year. I've seen her compete at a couple different meets, invitationals in Italy and in Canada. So she's looking really good. And then you've got Rose Wu, who's been competing at World Cups, and she seems to have found her form. She's very elegant. She's coming off a high at the World Championships in 2021, where she placed 18th in the all-around, which was the best ever for her. And then you've got Shalyn Olsen, who, believe it or not, has been competing almost every weekend this year because she competes in the NCAA for Alabama. So she's got a lot of veteran experience under her belt. It's going to be very exciting competition on the women's side. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who are anticipating watching Ellie Black compete in person.
Let's jump to the men's side. Lots of buzz there. I mean, refreshed team, William Amard, Felix Dulce. What do you see on the men's side, Kyle?
Yeah. So on the men's side, there is a lot of buzz internationally about the Canadian men's team. You've got Rene Cornouet, who's kind of like the staple on the Canadian men's team. He competed at the Pan Am Games in 2015, and that's really where he kind of made his breakthrough on the senior men's team. He competed at the Tokyo Olympics, and he's so motivated. And one of the things that he told me why he's so motivated is because this team has so much potential. You've got William Amard, who you mentioned, who at the World Championships placed 8th in the all-around. That's the best ever finish for a Canadian man at a World Championships ever. So he's really good. He's a star. He also made 2 apparatus finals, the rings and the vault. And then his training mate is Felix Dulce, who has been a standout junior for the past geez, people have been talking about him for almost a decade, but he's finally in that senior ranks, and he competed at the World Championships. He had an injury there, so he really wasn't at his peak form, but you just see Anastasia, there's this new energy amongst this men's team. Like, they've got swagger. They walk into the meets and you can tell they want to be good. They're looking around at the rest of the world, and they're trying to one up them. They're trying to add new elements into their routines, trying to build up that difficulty. They're very polished as well. And I think if you have the 1, 2, 3 punch of Renee, William, and Felix, and then some supporting members who are good on the events that they aren't so good on, this Canadian men's team does have a lot of potential to make an impact as we head towards Paris 2024. And I know for a fact that the Canadian men's team are singularly focused. Like, they are so driven towards qualifying a full team. It's been since 2008 in Beijing when the Canadian men's gymnastics team qualified a full team to the game. So they want it, they're hungry, and you can see it in the way that they work.
Kyle, there are so many conversations going on, of course, regarding safe sport, issues in the Canadian sporting landscape. Gymnastics is a significant player in that conversation. From your perspective, how would you like to see that conversation evolve?
Well, I think at the Canadian Championships, it is challenging because I want to see this conversation evolve, and I want people to be talking about the things that have happened in the past and how we can move forward and make a brighter future for the sport. I also feel it's so critical that we ensure that the athletes who are competing at this championships get the platform and the recognition that they deserve for their hard work. But I know I'm going to be on the ground at the championships, and I'm going to be having a lot of conversations. And what I kind of see this as is a bit of truth and reconciliation for the entire community, to look at the culture and look at the things that happened in the past, things that might not have felt right, but where you didn't feel you could say anything, and acknowledging that and saying, maybe as we move forward, how can we better deal with that? I really feel like on the ground, the pendulum is swinging, and that the bravery of the athletes that are coming forward, saying that their experiences decades ago or even currently aren't good, this is going to create change. We have to have these conversations. And I know in my role as an ambassador for the sport in the country, I'm having these conversations every single day. And it's something I want to move forward and ensure that sport, especially gymnastics, where you're dealing with young children who are reaching those elite levels, I want to ensure that this sport is a place that's holistic, where athletes can leave feeling like they had a very positive experience and they want to give back to the sport, that they want to look back and say, I was treated fairly with decency and I was respected. And I think that there's a lot of athletes coming forward that did not have that experience. And that's a failure. That's an absolute failure of the system. So all we can do is have a bit of truth and reconciliation, looking back, admitting the mistakes of the past, but also looking forward and saying, how can we make this brighter? And how can we make this better for that next generation? The time is now.